What is up, Maniacs? Welcome to WMMA Mania, episode 34. I'm your host, as always, Drake Riggs, here to bring you the latest and greatest in the world of mixed martial arts when it comes to the women specifically. We are here on another Wednesday. I apologize for the inconvenience moving the show back a day. Again, we are a Tuesday show. But I just have a lot of things going on these days. There's construction outside. It gets very noisy, like to the point where I can't even think straight and you'd be able to hear it. So that's been a part of these inconveniences that have been happening recently. But I'm so glad that you have decided to join us here on a different day. Regardless, it means a whole lot. So thank you so much for tuning in, whether you're on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter. And if you're on Twitter, head on over to YouTube or Facebook if you want, and you can interact in the live chat. We will get your questions, comments, or concerns read throughout the show if they are timely and fitted for the program. As today we have a pretty stacked lineup, at least compared to the last couple weeks. It's been a little bit chill, as last week we brought back the now champ of Invicta in the atomweight division, Jillian DeCourse. Very fun to have her on, especially as the champ. So that was pretty much an episode dedicated to her. There wasn't much else to talk about, so it worked out perfectly. Perfect timing for all of that to go down last week. Fun episode if you want to go back and check that out after today's show, of course. But we will be recapping what went down last week, as you can see by our cover photo today. UFC Vegas 62, just 2 fights. And then we have a good bit of news, very diverse mixture of news today. Fight announcements, card announcements, pretty much everything you can think of. And then we will be previewing the big UFC 280 card. So just 2 fights on that one as well. But should be some fun ones to get into. So there's a lot to talk about today, you guys. There's a lot more, at least comparatively, than the last couple weeks. So appreciate you so much for tuning in. And do not forget to visit MMAnia.com for all your MMA needs. Like, share, and subscribe. You can even hit the notification bell on our channel so you don't miss a gosh darn thing. Don't want to miss a gosh darn thing around here. We got so much going on. Great times. So without further ado, let's see how everybody is doing. Oh, and I guess I'm reminded. Thank you, Alvin is here. Greetings all. Let's have a wonderful chat about MMA. I'm glad that I completely forgot. Thank you for being the first commenter today, Alvin, because Alvin, our resident Prince of Positivity, he provided us again with another message to kick off the show. He's done this a couple times before, and I'll always oblige him in sharing his positivity, because that's what we're all about on this show, as much as we can be. All right, you guys, please and thank you. Where is it? Sorry, here we are. So a message today from Alvin to kick off our Wednesday. He says, being a fight, off to a terrible start. I can't speak today. It feels like forever since last week. He says, being a fight fan can be frustrating and heartbreaking when your favorite fighter loses. Whatever hardship you feel, think about how the fighters on the defeated side feel after months of hard work in camp. Loss can be painful. It's great to celebrate those who are victorious, but we as fans must also encourage the defeated to push through and keep going. Progress comes, and it's worth it in the end. Being a mixed martial arts fan is not for everyone, but it is for you. So let's do our part to cheer and encourage all fighters to perform well at every single event. My goodness, how uplifting. How uplifting can you possibly be, Alvin? Wonderful, wonderful message. I love it. And I mean, you can apply the things that Alvin says just to regular situations in life. So that's what is just so great to have. Just great to have you around, Alvin. You really make things better wherever you are, my man. We need more Alvins out there in the world. So I love starting the show that way. So let's see. Ghost says we need to address something. As he says, from last week, I said about Ghost. I never once said that if you are a specialist that you should ignore every other aspect in MMA. Okay, I don't recall, but if I said it, then fair game. I say a lot of things, Ghost. I talk a lot, so I will forget some stuff here and there and maybe speak out of tone. But anyway, so I recommended that Dern learn something other than wrestling since her work ethic is horrible. And I said Esparza will never get good at striking since she doesn't have the coordination to begin with. I'm always for the fighters to improve and become well-rounded and win through variety, but there are certain fighters who will just never learn due to lack of work ethic or coordination. Well, I mean, you can never say never, right? That's when you need to work around those deficiencies. So, I mean, yeah. What exactly? Let's see here. I never once said that for a specialist you should ignore every. Oh, okay. Okay, fair. I mean, not that they should, but it does just kind of how it sounded to me. I know what you're referring to now, but yes. MMA is a complex thing, but I do believe in never say never. Sure, it doesn't look likely for them to maybe do these things, especially at these points in their careers. Not at all likely, right, Ghost? And yes, I'm being very nitpicky with words. That's what I do. I write. So I do say never, but yeah, you're probably right. It's unlikely that these adaptations will come for the specific names you mentioned, but we'll see. Centro, good to see you. Drake, the one and only source for the women. Oh, too kind, my man. Jen says, what's good? Yeah, just I'm glad to be here. A lot of good things going on. UFC 280 looks absolutely lit. A sharp contrast to the two mundane cards we just had. He's referencing the UFC ones. Yeah, very big difference. Very big difference indeed. And my hair is all over the place today. As Jimmy is here, I'm getting some slow connection. Apologies, guys. You know how it is with me. Let's get the only show about MMA for the women on the road. At least the only one worth watching since all the others are nonsensical and uneducated. Well, too kind as always, Jimmy. Appreciate you greatly. Makoto says, Drake, only 27 days until UFC 281 and Whaley gets her belt back for where it belongs. So I'm actually hoping to be at that one. Nothing official yet, but we'll see. I will be in New York for the PFL, so I might have 2 New York trips. What's that, next month? My goodness. We'll see. But if I do go to that, then I'll have been at Whaley's, no, not her last 3 fights. I wasn't at the Joanna one, but I was at the Rose ones, and then maybe that one, but that'd be a good fun card to go to. We shall see. Rance is the man off Fiorot of gift wrapping a bow. Not a man off fan, but I just need something to rhyme with. Not bad. Not bad. James says, Drake, I asked Dan Tom about Yan Xiaonan and her habits, and he said she's not very layered on the feet in terms of tools she uses. She's just a side kick and a jab and a right hand counter. No, that's two different analysts, Ghost and Dan, with the same observation about Xiaonan. Why do you disagree with those assessments, even though they study the film closely? Again, I'm just very specific about word choices, right? And just saying like that's all they are, that doesn't seem fair to me because we do see different things. Maybe that's their primary weapons, right? Like, of course, that's safe to say. So I'm just like I'm very word specific. That's my thing, Ghost. I can't help that my brain works that way. I understand that obviously, again, like I said, those are her main weapons in this example. So to generalize her that way, I guess is fair, right? But I'm very word particular. That's my thing, you guys. So whenever I kind of say that stuff, that's why, because that's how my brain works. I'm sorry. Okay. So forgive me, but I'm very literal. That's what it is. I'm very literal about these things. So that's all it is, really. And I'm not afraid to admit that. I know it could be annoying, so I apologize. Rue, Drake Riggs is the man who runs the best show for MMA fans such as myself. Too kind, man. Too kind. I really try to be the best I can be and just have a good, fun time, good, positive environment. James says, maybe I shouldn't have asked that after Alvin's positivity. I didn't see anything too bad there, James. Rain says, that was a beautiful message from Alvin. Makes me feel bad with all the puns. I mean, the puns aren't bad. They're fun. I love a good pun, Rain. Speaking of words, keep them coming, my man. James, if you are there, I have some questions about Whaley's camp. Well, of course, I'm always happy to get any answers you guys could ever need when I am on the scene. And Ghost says, that's okay. That's why we have these conversations, right? To learn from each other. Exactly. Communication is a key to life, relationships, friendships, anything. Communication is key. That's the biggest thing we can learn from. And there's no need to jump to conclusions when we can communicate. So that's definitely well said there, Ghost. But all right, you guys, let's get into things now. A good 10-minute opener there. UFC Vegas 62 went down this past weekend. And not too bad. I mean, I'm going to be honest here, you guys. I actually didn't watch this event. I watched the women's fights, the ones that we're about to talk about here, the day after. So I missed this event live. So I can't say if it was a good card or not. I did see some of the highlights. Cub Swanson getting finished looked ridiculous. I don't know how the fight looked up until that point. Serkinov lost again. Victor Henry losing was a big surprise to me. I do want to watch that one. But I did watch these fights the day after because I have to. It's part of the gig, right? And I mean, I got to watch the other ones too, but I've been very preoccupied. A lot going on, like I said. So anyway, we'll start off with the main event, which Alexa Grasso gets the job done, defeating Viviane Araújo via unanimous decision, 50-45 and 249-46 So as you guys know from last week, I was very, very excited for this fight, and I thought that it played out about as I expected it to. I thought it was very fun. It was very good, despite the scorecards making it look super lopsided, right? Like only one round from the judges here for Araujo, and I believe it was kind of I didn't see the exact scorecards, but round 2 or 3 had the arguments there, and I know some people did give Araujo both those rounds, right? And I did listen to this without the commentary, so I watched both of these fights without commentary. I was doing something else or listening to something else at the same time. So I don't know how kind of they were feeling about it, but I thought it was one of those close but competitive fights, right? Like, or no, close but clear. Like, I think Alexa definitely landed more significant shots at a more often, I guess. That's just the best way to put it, throughout the entire fight. And as we look here, I mean, very close, like numbers wise, obviously. Round 1, 33-30. Round 2, 57-26, not as close there. But then the 2 takedowns for Araujo had some decent minimal control time there. 34-30, 36-30. I mean, all the rounds are very close, actually, in terms of strikes landed. Like, it looked like Alexa was the more active of the two, like watching it. And obviously, as you can see from the totals that she did throw, she almost threw 100 more strikes. So that was kind of a big key, I think, to it. And even in defeat here, like Viviane continued to show that, all right, she is able to go long in fights now, and has seemed to have fixed up that cardio issue which she had early on. And I mean, if there's any way to prove that or evidence that, it would be in this 5-round fight, where she did look fairly tired going into the 5th round, like on the stool, but came out looking fine. And she tried to mix up her game like as she needed to, and should have tried to do 2 of 10 takedowns. Like, that was one of the big factors too, was Alexa Grasso's takedown defense. Like, there were some very good shots hidden behind some of the strikes from Araujo, which they ended up working obviously in the 2nd round here. But outside of that, no dice. Like, Alexa Grasso's takedown defense is getting very good. And not to say Viviane is a great wrestler or anything, but she's been, in the last fight particularly, she mixed her game beautifully, and she tried to here. So I think it's more credit to Grasso than Viviane not doing well, if that makes sense. More of a credit to Alexa doing well. I think that makes sense, what I'm trying to say. But yeah, I think the biggest thing I would highlight as a problem from Araujo was her striking defense, and again, you could credit that as just Grasso being very quick and sharp with her techniques. Um, there were some big shots landed by each, though. Like, I forget which round it was. It might have been round 3 where I was feeling, or maybe it was round 2. It was one of those 2 where you could argue for, and some people did give Araujo, where um, at the end, Alexa kind of landed some big ones when the whole round was kind of not going her way. So it was a very interesting fight kind of to watch unfold, and obviously maybe not so much to score. I don't know. I feel a little bit surprised by the cards. Like, I didn't score this myself because I don't generally, depending on kind of the fight or if I hear anything about it beforehand, I don't usually score as intently if it's not live. Like, I'll kind of just casually score. And I did feel that she won, but I couldn't tell you specifically what score I would have given to this. But I enjoyed it. It was fun. It wasn't maybe as chaotic as I would have expected. Grasso just, I mean, she's looking great. She is looking great at flyweight. That's really the thing that is most impressive here is this run she's been on. And for Araujo, I don't know. It's tough. At 35, which, again, surprising that she is that age after looking at things last week. But I don't want to say it's the end for her, but obviously this hurts a lot. And, like, not the end of her career, I mean, but getting to a title, which she obviously wants to get to. But this was an interesting one. An interesting fight. As Rain says, too graphic. I don't know. Maybe it got deleted. I don't know what you're referencing. James says, I did not enjoy this fight, as Dan Tom said in his live, very repetitive. That is fair. Yeah, there was a lot of, it was kind of similar sequences playing out. So that's fair. Yeah, that's a good point. That's kind of an interesting point. It didn't really feel, as I was watching it, that like anything was going to change too much, especially after the second round. And once Alexa was able to fend off the takedowns and defend, it seems like we might see the same thing continue to play out. As Ghost also says, the fight was very repetitive and not good. Grasso has had good counter combos, but Araujo's game planning was hideous. I talked about low kicks last week, which Drake mistakenly said that low kicks against a slick boxer is hard. It's actually easier to hit good boxers with low kicks. Yeah, I mean, we have seen that kind of happen against Aldana, so I will admit the mistake there. And I mean, that makes sense too. Just naturally thinking of boxers being susceptible to low kicks. That's just seems logical, right? Because of the style there. But yeah, I wouldn't say the fight was not good necessarily, but I think the repetitive point is a good one. Sammy says, "Hey Drake, I forgot to DM you about another troll." All right, well, DMs are open. Go says, since they have to transition their weight from one foot to the other for effective punching or head movement, leaving the legs to be kicked for free. Yes, very good point to prove to you guys. The few times Araujo threw an inside low kick she landed and affected Grasso's balance. Too bad she did not build a game plan surrounding that. Yeah, that is a good point. I do remember she was landing some solid ones there momentarily. It's just, yeah, just one of those things. The IQ gets distracted by other things, I guess. I don't know. Citra says he enjoyed this, but it seems like the type of fight that most of the chat do not like. Well, so far you are correct there, Centro. Yeah, I have no problems with the fight overall. Jen says I actually disagree. Araujo looked like her strategy was just to jab and get takedowns. Seems limited. Didn't really build off the jab or the head and shoulder feint. That is true as well. Yeah, Araujo, she seemed to fight a little bit differently than she typically does. And I think that could probably be credited to Grasso's style, maybe just throwing off her general approach. But yeah, it was less diverse. She was a little bit more. She wasn't as mobile as she typically is either. Araujo, typically moves around a little bit more actively, and maybe it was the 5-round thing, right? She was pacing because she has the cardio issue in the back of her head, or at least it was there at some point. So she wasn't kind of attacking the same way as she generally does. Rue says, would you say Araujo is a mid-tier fighter or top 10? No, she's very clearly top 10, Rue. She's very clearly top 10. Yeah, like if you look at who's in the top 10, she should be sticking around in there for as long as she wants, honestly. Probably between I don't know what exactly. I don't remember what she was ranked 6-ish or in the rankings right now or something like that. But she'll probably float around the 5 to 10 range for the rest of her career unless she makes some big improvements. Um, but all right, Sammy noted. It just says I saw before that our I don't know what you're saying there to the body. Well, our Ujo, I'm assuming you just mean, will which we all like in previous fights. You're confusing the hell out of me with that one, Jen. I don't know what I'm trying to read. Um, Jumbo, what is up? And Sammy, all right. I think I know who you're talking about. Yeah. Yeah, if that happens again, we'll take care of it. But anyway, so now the question is, as is in the title of today's episode, you got to think that Alexa, at the moment, as of right this second, probably next in line for the title. 4 fights in a row, just won a main event pretty convincingly. She should be the number one contender. But because UFC is UFC, we'll see what happens this Saturday, and we'll get to that fight and circle back on this topic. But she is in a very good position right now. As Jin says, Araujo goes to the body. Well, my space bar was stuck. I don't know how that came out of that half. Oh, I see. It looks very odd combined. I see what you're saying. Yes, she did land some good body shots. That was funny. But okay, that was our UFC 262 main event, and I shouldn't be drinking this drink I'm drinking. It's making me a little bit sticky spitted, if you know what I mean. All right, so let's move on to the other fight now. Get it out of the way. As I'm sure you guys have some thoughts on this one too. As at strawweight, Piera Rodriguez defeated Sam Hughes via unanimous decision, 29-28 all. So this one I definitely was not scoring like at all. I remember watching it and feeling like it was pretty competitive and not having too great of an idea. Very casually watched it on replay, but again, numbers pretty close. Obviously, in the strikes only, 89-78 overall, 20 versus 22 in round one, 37-20 in round. Round one was 20-22. Round two, 37-20, and then 32-36 in round three. But those 3 takedowns in round two were pretty big on top of the strikes from Piera. And I mean, it was a pretty much same thing there in the third. I couldn't tell you which round they gave to Sam. I would imagine maybe the first from what I remember, but Piera Rodriguez in both of her UFC fights now has kind of shown to get better as the fights go on. And there were some moments where, of course, she did pressure Hughes and give her some trouble there, but didn't really capitalize on it too much. Was countering with her takedowns when Sam was coming at her, and that obviously ended up paying off in more instances than not, but still Hughes was able to defend. Excuse me. Some of the takedowns early on specifically. And even late here, as you can see with the 1 of 4. But ultimately wasn't enough. So not the most memorable fight, but yeah. Jin says she had a nice left hook to the body that she did against Andrea Lee. He's talking about Viviane Araujo still, but didn't against Grasso, which kind of makes sense because Grasso was a boxer. And there you are. James says, Drake, we have to be positive, right? So I have nothing to say. Fair enough, my guy. All right. let me see here. We have a random question here in the chat, which I will address in a moment. Well, yeah, I mean, I guess that's it for that fight. We don't have too much to say, right? Um, yeah, it was fine. Piera, she's pretty young still, right? So I think she should keep fighting kind of around this level for now and continue to improve, work on things for Sam Page. She'll obviously go back to the drawing board. But yeah, it is what it is. I don't know, when there's not too much to say. There's not too much to say, right? So a good win for her. Congratulations. Congratulations. She is undefeated in the UFC still. So that's really all you need. That's really all you need. So, all right. That is UFC Vegas 62. Before we get to the news, which I'm actually really excited to talk about. There's some good announcements here. As Jen says, can we not talk about it? Ghost says it happened. It did happen. So okay, let's see. We have a newcomer, Luke Welling. Good to see you. Thanks so much for tuning in. Says hi, Drake. I'm a friend of Nick Atkin, as am I. One of the best in the biz. Love that guy tremendously. From Bang Tao and promoter of Full Metal Dojo in Thailand. Oh, we got Fight Circus in the chat today, you guys. As he continues on, says, I have a question regarding an article I came across and debated against Combo Breaker 99. Don't know who that is, but since you appear to be the most well-respected women's source, though that means a lot, I appreciate that greatly. Disagree, but I'll take it. I'd like to bring this to you. Sure. He says, WMA Rankings published an article saying Marina turned down Zhang Wei Li since she only had 40 days to prepare for the June 11th fight in Singapore. Well, we don't like to mention that website around here too often, if ever, but we'll go bit by bit here, Luke, since I see you have a couple, but saying Marina turned down Wei Li, and she told me that too. That is what Marina has said to me. Maybe not specifically the 40 days to prepare part, but because of the training situation for that event with Tyler Santos. But either way, yes, Marina has confirmed openly that she turned down the fight. And he says, well, I did the math and deep digging. Zhang Weili versus Joanna 2 was verbally agreed on April 8th, 2022, and officially signed on April 2020. Rodriguez mentioned she was offered the fight 40 days before June 11th, which was May 3rd. Both Zhang and Joanna were in the middle of camp on May 3rd. Rodriguez fought Yan on March 5th. Say the UFC offered her to fight Zhang on June 11th. On March 12th. There's a lot of math going on here, man. You can't throw math at me. I'm not good at it. That's 91 days for a camp or 3 months. That's a good amount of time. Now, I do not believe the 40 days for a training camp since Zhang and Joanna were already booked during the time period she mentioned. In fact, I was in the Muay Thai class with Weili and Top Noi, and April 27th, she was already in full camp mode. So I don't think Rodriguez was being truthful. Why be dishonest about that if she doesn't want Weili? Why not just say so? Well, there are so many different moving parts, Luke, and I'm sure that you understand that, being with a promotion in Full Metal Dojo, right? But here's an example that jumps right to mind: how UFC kind of operates on a one person basis at times. So maybe that's when the timing of what Marina is saying is when things came to her, right? As opposed to Weili knowing earlier. Again, all the numbers you threw at me are a little bit confusing for me. But like, for an example, what Adesanya said, I forget which fight it was ahead of, but one of his more recent ones, what he said, that he didn't sign the contract until like fight week. I think that was him. Some fighter said that recently, some champion, or even, no, it was Masvidal, I think, also did that for the Covington fight, right? Or something, which is absolutely ludicrous and could be bullshit. That seems like it has to be bullshit, right? To get to that point and not be there. So there's just so many different things that could play into that. And I never heard, I've still never heard Marina say the 40-day thing. And from the site that you sourced right there, I wouldn't necessarily trust that. Just to be totally honest, they have not a great history. Um, but as far as I knew from the situation and what she had told me and others that I'd seen her say to, it was kind of the timing of for that event, she wouldn't have gotten full focus to train with Tyler Santos working together and all the focus was on the title fight, which was the more important fight for the camp, right? And so that was the line of thinking that I have heard of. Um, so I don't know. There's always so many moving things, and in terms of why not say you just don't want to fight somebody? Um, I don't know. I mean, obviously, not to look like you're scared or something like that, but she's been open to the fight before. I know we've talked about it even before, kind of this timeline here, but I don't know. I don't know. I mean, it doesn't matter too much. This is a loaded thing to be thrown at me right here, but um, I don't know. There's just so many moving parts, right? That's really what it boils down to. Sammy says, "Why not just pressure Hughes when you know she can't handle it?" Um, yeah, that I mean, that's true. Looks to say you're a friend of Nick. Cool. Yeah, of course. Yeah, I worked with Nick for most of last year, for sure, and I've worked with him before then as well. Centro says he knows Luke. Very cool. Z is here. What is up? Says, what's your gauge on how people would respond to a Rose versus Carla 3 book? I think people wrongly want rematches after amazing fights like Joanna versus Whaley. Chances are the rematch won't live up to the original. Okay, that's a good point. Rose versus Carla 3 literally cannot be worse than Rose versus Carla 2. Yeah, you would sure think so. Yeah. I mean, the likelihood of it being as good in that case, great example there, Z. Very, very unlikely. Well, like the only cases of that happening are from you look at Maynard versus Edgar 1. No one ever talks about that fight. It was just a meh. Gray Maynard victory. Rematch, one of the best fights of all time. Trilogy, one of the best fights of all time. Of course, they were in their primes for those final two, but yeah. My gauge though on how people respond to a Carla versus Rose. I don't think anyone wants it really from what I've seen. I see no chatter about that whatsoever. But how would they react? They probably would not be too happy with it for for multiple reasons. Yeah, if that ever does happen, let's hope that it's a 3-round non-title fight whenever. But I don't know. I feel like they may have ruined the I mean, Carla's 2-0 now, so there's not even a need for it. It's shit with the shittiness of the rematch. Like we don't need it at all ever again. It's done. So I don't think anyone would be happy or want that, despite some people feeling maybe Rose won, and who cares? Who cares? Fight sucks. So, and she's 0-2. That's all. Shitty fight, 0-2. End of story. Wrap it up. Throw it away. James says, I saw this on C99. People keep saying that the UFC was trying to feed Rodriguez to Whaley since it was short notice and the UFC was trying to make Moreno lose, which is daft. Yeah, I don't. That's a very odd conspiracy theory that doesn't make really any sense. Doesn't make any sense. Why? Like, yeah, I was gonna say just when they had Joanna come in and have the fight anyway. Yeah, that's very illogical. I can't even process that. Yeah. Let's see. Crombie says that would be the lowest pay-per-view ever if that happens. Yeah, it would. Well, it certainly wouldn't headline. I can promise you that. And again, if it happens, if it does happen, which it won't, I can pretty much promise you guys that won't happen unless there's like some way where Remember when Joseph Benavidez worked his way back to a Demetrius fight? He had to win like, a shitload in a row over all the top contenders. Something like that. It'd be if it does happen, it would be non-title 3 rounds. Hopefully. I don't know. I don't want to think about it anymore. As James says, no one wants it. Yeah, it's over. It's done with. Let's get to the news now. Let's breathe through the news cycle. Oof. You guys are exhausting me early. My goodness. My brain can't handle these thoughts today. But what they can handle is the return of Natty Silva, baby. As Natalia, oh shit, I'm all over now. Natalia Silva versus Teresa Bleda has been added to UFC Vegas 65 on November 19th. And you guys will remember Natalia Silva with one of the best, most brilliant UFC debuts in recent memory, if not ever, when she took out Jasmine Jasudavicius. Just looked incredible. One of my favorite performances of all time, really. I mean, just all things considered, making her debut the way she did. If you are not a Natalia Silva fan, I don't know if we could be friends, because she just looked so gosh darn good in that debut. I'm so excited to see her back. We've been waiting. I mean, that debut was in early summer, right? That was around June-ish, if I'm remembering correctly. So now they're keeping it slow with her, which is fine. I mean, I really like that, actually, because she looked so damn good that typically you could see UFC being like, oh, damn, she was so good that we need to give her somebody close to the top 15. Not the case here. She's taking on someone who won on the Contender Series, still kind of around that young prospect range along with her. That's fine. Let's take it slow. And then she's only going to be that much more dangerous and get that much better by the time they do want to give her someone up there. And kind of we're seeing the same thing with Yasmin Yaraguay too, who I already forget who she got booked against like 2 weeks ago, but not jumping the gun on her yet either. But these are two of those kind of young prospects that look just very far ahead for where they are right now. So I absolutely love Natalia Silva. I cannot wait to see her fight anybody after that UFC debut. She looked awesome. And if you guys, for some reason, haven't seen that, if you're watching this, go and watch her debut against Jasmine Jasudavicius as soon as you possibly can. She, one of my favorite performances in a long time, really. So, yes, should be a good one here. Fine with it. Totally fine. I appreciate the UFC for taking it slow with her. I think that there's no need to rush. There's no need to rush. So that will be exciting on that Vegas 65 card, which is, speaking of Marina, the one after her. She will be on 64 on the 5th. So, yes. I get those two events mixed up for whatever reason, but all right. Excuse me. As we move on to PFL news, as broken by MMAmania.com. Get your scoops here from your boy every now and then. As at featherweight, Julia Budd is going to welcome Aspen Ladd to the PFL at the 2022 championship on November 25th, day after Thanksgiving in New York City. I will be there for this one. I don't know if I said that off the top about my New York trips and returns, but very interesting PFL debut for Aspen Ladd, who, it's good to, it's the whole thing, as we mentioned, when she signed and when she left the UFC and all that. Best case scenario, PFL, less weight cutting, more money, all these things. But still, performance-wise, she needs to kind of get back to those roots. If she can, lean on that wrestling that got you to the dance. She's one of the best ground and pound deliverers, if you will, we've seen in the bantamweight division over the last so many years. And she's taking on a huge natural featherweight in Julia Budd, which will be the first time she's fought. And, one of the best featherweights on the planet still is Julia Budd, despite the Jenna Fabian loss at 155. Not a great performance from her the last time out. Started off strong, but then I don't know. Something's just kind of been off with Julia a little bit as the fights have gone on, maybe, or at least in the last one. And then she had an injury after that, which took her out of the tournament. So this will be Julia's third PFL fight, and former Bellator champ. A very interesting matchup. Both of these fighters who have had kind of some maybe mental lapses or issues in their fights, their recent fights, now they're taking on each other. I don't know how I feel about it in terms of like how it'll play out just yet. We'll save that for fight week, but matchup wise, probably it's the best call you could go with to start things off for Lad in terms of like a big fight and then on a big show. And I mean, it's also a gamble though, because of it being the opponent it is, and Julia Budd, and having her beat Lad potentially before you go into this new featherweight season next year, which you're surely going to center around Aspen Ladd unless you can bring in some more names. But how are you going to do that when Bellator has as well? Which, let's address that real quick. I don't know if you guys may have saw or if you follow the PFL. What is he I don't know his exact title. CEO, founder, I guess you could say he's the founder, Don Davis. He said after the Lad acquisition that PFL has the best 155 and 145 pound divisions, which, first of all, 155 we know is not a real division as well as UFC featherweight. But then second of all, no, you don't. Even if they drop down and be featherweights with what they are, as what they already are, most of them. Some of them are flyweights, some of them are bantamweights. They're not even, lightweight's not a real thing. It's just a fun little experiment for Kayla. We've known this, but to say that they have the best is just continually throwing shade at Bellator. But in this case, it's just not true. Bellator is the spot for 145 fighters. We know this. It's not a question. It's not a debate. Not to say it's like amazing or anything, but they have all the top ones. They have all the top ones, except for Julia now, who's gone. Other than that, though, and assuming Cyborg sticks around, and Nunes, if you want to count her, but it's just a mess. It's not even if you did, I don't know if that's something to brag about, but that's the promotion game. That's the promotion game. I suppose you could leave it to that, but all right. As we move along to a big one at bantamweight, some very clear implications here as Ketlin Vieira goes back home to Brazil, takes on Raquel Pennington at UFC 283 on January 21st. These things are wrong here. So the graphic and my ticker are wrong. It is actually the 21st for that event. I know some people have been getting that confused, but UFC 283 is on January 21st, 2023. My goodness, it's almost the new year. Oh, but so this is interesting though, because obviously, Ketlin Vieira. Well, Raquel Pennington has, kind of been on a bit of a resurgence herself, but Ketlin Vieira just beat two former champions. Seemingly was right there with a title in her grasp, but now she's got to get one more. This has to be the last one. Like, you win this, title is coming your way unless they get funky with Valentina. But you have to assume now, if we're going to do the MMA math as well, on this card at the moment, Figueiredo Moreno 4 is happening. but you have to assume that they are working on Nunes defending the title against Irene Aldana. That has to be the idea. And Aldana obviously knocked out Ketlin in what that was like. I think that was 2020, 2019-ish. Been a bit since it happened. So that's kind of why I felt you could probably still say Ketlin is slightly above Aldana in terms of who should get the title shot. And as much as I love Irene, and she's finished her last two opponents brilliantly, absolutely brilliantly, but she missed weight for the Yana fight. So that was kind of a mark against her for me as well. But then, of course, when you look at both of them, I'm sure the UFC's like, well, Aldana knocked her out clean in the first round with a fantastic right hook. So you have to think. You have to think it's kind of a mini four-way here that they're working on. And if they're not, then I don't know what we're doing. I really don't know what we're doing. It would be, imagine this. This would be super dumb and annoying. As much as I love Norma Dumont, which I really do. I really do. Amanda Nunes, what she said she does want to defend or plans to continue defending the featherweight title. Let's assume she wants to do that next and first in the UFC lets her. And like, oh, well, I guess the only one that makes sense would be Norma. So if we get Nunes versus Dumont instead of Nunes versus Aldana on this card, I might lose my mind. I might go a little bit insane because I'm already not sure about this one happening in the order of it all. And again, I love Norma. That would be great for her to get that opportunity. But no, let's not do that. Let's fucking get rid of featherweight, please. Or just, I don't know, man. I don't know. See, I never want to get into the featherweight talk in the UFC because it's just a frustrating circle to go down. But this should be a good fight. It should be a good fight, even though I'm not sure if it should have been made. I think it'll be fun. And Ketlin Vieira has looked up pretty darn good on this recent stretch, as has Rocky. So, yeah, I'm not mad at it. I feel weird about it, but I'm not necessarily disgruntled or anything. But I will tell you what does torque the old hoagie a little bit. And I'm sure you guys will love this one too. And I'm being very sarcastic. But one championship just seems to absolutely, I don't want to say hate, but they have some serious issues with old Sohee Hamderlei, as she is now set to take on Itsuki Hirata at 163 on November 19th. That's the same day as Natty Silva's fight, UFC Vegas 65. But either way, I don't know what Sohee Ham has to do to get some respect around these one championship grounds as one of the greats of all time. But to get her title shot, they're making her go through Itsuki Hirata, someone who is coming off of one win since her first loss, and a win that she was losing about 14 minutes and 30 seconds of the fight, if we can all agree on that, to Lin Hashin. Well, Sohee Ham, it's practically said that she would be getting was told she was getting the title shot against Angela Lee after 2 wins over Denise Zamboanga, who was undefeated and one of the top contenders. It was in the tournament. Some injury stuff did happen, but for you to go from that fighter matchup to, okay, you're next in line for the title now, to, oh, well, don't know about that. You got to get through this still rising prospect to actually get it. It's like, what are we doing? And then give Angela the trilogy fight with Zhang in the meanwhile, which I'm not going to complain about that ever, because you guys know I love those fights, that series, that rivalry. So I don't at all regret the fact that we got Zhang versus Li 3. But you got to assume also that has prolonged this. So he has not fought. It's been a while since that Zamboanga rematch. So really, this is maybe best case, at least in terms of staying active before a title shot. Because in all reality, she should not have too many problems with Itsuki. Itsuki has clearly still shown to be growing into her overall MMA game. Yes, she has some power, solid judo, but Sohee, a veteran and as talented of a fighter as she is, should really not have too many struggles, assuming she just doesn't get caught, similar to Lin Haishin in the last fight. But it's still a gamble. This is obviously the risk far outweighs the reward for Ham. I mean, I'm sure she isn't looking at it that way. She'll just fight whoever and be like, all right, title shot comes when it comes. And surely Angela needs to heal up a little bit after getting her brain rattled in that Panda trilogy. And then, take some time to get ready and come back for the this potential fight that you have, even though she's probably going to try and have a fourth fight with Panda. Either way, Panda needs to leave one championship. There's a whole rabbit hole we can go down here. Either way, this is just absolutely ridiculous. The Sohee Ham in one championship saga has just really been fucking disappointing and upsetting. If we're going to be totally honest, like this portion of her career, we didn't need this. If she goes on to win the title, it will have all been worth it. But man, it's really taken its time. Some for her own reasons, some for the promotion. So that's really frustrating when we could be seeing, you guys. Think about this though. This is why it makes me so upset. We could have seen Sohee Ham versus Sekizawa versus Hamasaki again. Who wouldn't want to see the tetralogy of that fight? Their trilogy fight was one of the best ever. Siwoo Park. There are still plenty of fighters she didn't get to fight in Ryzen. Rana, my goodness. It's fucking dumb, man. And then they treat her this way. When she comes in as the champion, she didn't lose the title. Imagine Sohee Ham versus Sekizawa. My God. They're completely ruining the end of her career, if we're going to be honest here. Now, again, hopefully, like I said, it all pays off. And if she goes and wins the title, if she just gets a title shot at all, it will have paid off, because that's what we're waiting for. She should have came right in and got a title shot immediately. That is the status of Sohee Ham. But instead, they've treated her like some South Korean veteran with no legacy. And you hate to see that. You hate to see that shit. And I'm ranting here. I'm really rambling. I'm sorry, guys. I didn't plan for this. It just came out of me. This kind of stuff just drives me crazy. Respect your legends. Respect your GOATs. Nothing drives me crazier. So we'll be watching, though. Should be interesting while it lasts. All right, getting close to wrapping up here, you guys. Sorry, I'm trying to breeze through the news. I see all the comments in there. I will get to them. As of yesterday, we had another big one announced. Flyweight, 2 former title challengers, the most recent title challengers, actually. Oh, aside from Tyler Santos. And now I think I'm realizing I screwed something up yesterday, now that I say that. That's okay. But at flyweight, Lauren Murphy is taking on Jessica Andrade at UFC 283. Also on the same one with we just talked about Vieira and Pennington. So a big one here at flyweight. Jessica Andrade still sticking with going back to flyweight after screwing things up at strawweight for Amanda Lemos. Like, it really makes that whole situation look unnecessary, that whole fight now, for her to come down, knock off a contender, essentially embarrass a contender, and then still go back to flyweight, which she was going to fight Fiorot, save the day after the Chukagian ridiculousness, which we're going to get to. Then came out. I don't know what, I still don't know what the hell that whole situation was. I need to catch up with Jessica again and get to the bottom of that because it was just very weird. But yeah, this fight is what? It's 3 versus 4, 2 versus 3, I think, in the flyweight rankings. So it makes sense. It's fine for that division. Should be fun. I'm intrigued by it. I have no issues with this at all, aside from the strawweight kind of fuckery that Jessica has provided us with. But she can do whatever she wants, so why not do it then? As I forgot to put that back up, but yeah, UFC 283 is looking pretty darn good for the return to Brazil. I'm not mad at it. And last time Jessica was in Brazil, she damn near killed Rose. So maybe we can get a repeat of that. Not that we want it. Not that we want any severe slammage. Well, who am I kidding? Yes, we do. I meant not that we want anything bad to happen to Lauren necessarily. I want everybody healthy here, safely. As safe as fighting can be. But, of course, we'd love to see another slam. Who am I kidding? That was one of the craziest goddamn things I've ever seen in the sport. So that should be fun. I'm looking forward to that fight. Always looking forward to Jessica Andrade fights. She has an absolutely ridiculous highlight reel. And then our last bit of news for the day, as announced today, Invicta FC 50 has its lineup. So I'm not going to put this on the screen for you guys because it won't be very easy to read, but I will read it off to you as we have a tournament returning, a one-night tournament, not the Phoenix Series. Will not be the Phoenix Series, but it will be a tournament. As, let's see, where is this event taking place? Denver. All right. So I think that's how they can pull this off. Invicta FC 50 hosting a strawweight title tournament now that Emily Ducote is gone and in the UFC. New champion is going to be crowned through four-person title tournament. So we do not have the fights decided yet, but in the tournament is Valeska Machado, who defeated Liz Tracy at the last event. Gloria DePaula has now joined the promotion. You remember her from the UFC. And Ediana Silva, and then Karolina Vajcik is also going to be in there. So there'll be 2 of those fights before the finals for the title in the main event. And then there'll be 2 reserve bouts featuring Sharon Jacobson versus Melissa Odessa. And then Fatima Klein versus Danny McCormick, who is also in Invicta now from Bellator, you will remember, who she has lost her last 2 fights, but formerly Danny Nealon. It was announced that she signed the other day, so that was kind of surprising to see. Bellator was like pretty high on her, and they should still have reason to be, and then she's gotten away, obviously. So she will be a reserve. Kind of surprising. Well, not surprising. I was going to say just because of the slight name value, but that she's not in the tournament, but she has lost 2 in a row, so I get it. And then there will be 2 bantamweight fights also on the card, sandwiched between there. Claire Guthrie back in Invicta from the Ultimate Fighter season, this past season. She takes on Marilia Moraes. I'm wondering if that's supposed to be Mariana. No, I don't know. So I haven't heard of Marilia, but Mariana, obviously, who was in the PFL last season. And then Katharina Leonard is back taking on Talita Bernardo. So look at that. Look at that. Katharina Leonard, a constant, if you will, in Invicta for a good bit. Had a stint on the Ultimate Fighter as well. And then Bernardo was also in the UFC. Didn't do too hot there, but now here we are. So there you go. Tournaments are always fun. That should be a good time. Deciding the new strawweight champ. But that's all we got for the news. There was a lot in there, wasn't there, you guys? I went off on some tangents. I'm excited to see how you guys feel about it too before we get to the previews and everything. Let's see where we are. Got a lot to get to. All right, here we are. Alvin says we have upset Mr. Riggs. I apologize on behalf of the chat. Oh no, you guys didn't upset me, Alvin. Everything's all good. I was upset by the news. That's what upset me. As James says, let me tell you the nonsense I heard yesterday. Oh boy, should you though? The UFC was too focused on Zhang to get their Chinese champion that they would be willing to make Rodriguez fight on short notice to put her at a disadvantage, and Marina saw right through that. Just, yeah, no, none of that. I don't want to talk about that anymore. It doesn't make any sense. Jen says, when would it be okay to rush fighters like Victor Henry? I mean, that was a weird one. Like, I still got to go back and watch that fight. But I think that was probably a safe case, you know, a Sun Sal. I mean, Victor Henry's been around for a long time. Victor Henry came in and beat Yanni Barcelos, looked great in that one. I don't think that was kind of a rush on his part. But when would it be okay to rush them? I mean, in cases like his, like, again, I don't know exactly how it looks. I think a Sun Sal had his back against the wall big time there, clearly. But I don't know. It's different with everybody, Jen. It really is. Sammy says, "Are you okay, Drake? You nearly lost your breath." No, it's so I'm drinking. I have it's water with Mio in it, right? One of those kind of squirtable juices in there, and it's like kind of orange flavored, and so it's just making my spit a little sticky, but it tastes so good, and I just want to drink it still, so that's why I'm kind of cleary in my throat. It's just a little phlegmy. That's all. I'm breathing just fine. Don't worry. Thank you, though. I appreciate the concern. As Jimmy says, this one is 87% for Ghost, 13% is Drake. How does a fighter improve, and why is it so hard for all MMA fighters except for Rod Whitaker? I mean, 13% for me. I don't know how I have to give you the minimal as possible there. How does a fighter improve, and why is it so hard for all MMA fighters except? I think because people get everybody wants to be comfortable, right? Stick to what got you to where you are. If it's worked, then why change it? If it's not broken, don't fix it. Yeah, I'll leave that as my 13%. Rain says, Aspen Latta missing weight extremely bad. The whipping girl of this show. Zhao is here. Good to see you. I have some news that might make you disappointed, Drake. All right, well, that's not good. Did you know that Song Yadong, Li Jingliang, and Wei Li were planning on attending the Apex to root for Zhao Nan? Wei Li was very disappointed, and Jingliang had another suit made. I saw that. No, I did see that. I definitely did. And what's even sadder, though, is apparently, from what I heard, Yan Zhaonan's, at least her dad, I don't know if like the rest of her family, came to Vegas for her fight because it was her first main event, right? Came from China to watch his daughter fight, and then had to stay in the hotel room to watch it because of the fucking ridiculousness with the Facebook stuff, obviously. So that's really sad. A big bummer. If that's true, that's what I saw. Yeah, and I'm pretty sure that he has, at least her family. I know her mom has seen her fight in person before, but obviously not in the UFC or at least in America or anything. It's been a while for them. So if that is true, like, that sucks, man. That sucks big time. Not a waste of money necessarily. I mean, in a little bit of a way, but geez, I'd be so upset. Like, at least let the family members in. My God, really. And Cintro says, didn't Pennington fight Nunes in Brazil? Yes, she did. Yes, she did. As Ghost is answering. Jimmy says, for how a fighter can get better, what I'm about to say is simple but not easy. As to improve, if a fighter makes a mistake, they need to see why it happened. I also loved, Jimmy, to go back to this, the very random percentages you gave us, 87 and 13. It's very, I always go by fives, so maybe it's just a me thing or a you, I don't know. As he says, if a fighter makes a mistake, they need to see why it happened, not make that mistake again, then do it to other fighters. There you go. I agree. That's why Dern, Carla, Jaunan, Rodriguez are at a plateau. All right, now we're picking on people since they are only focused on what they're doing well and getting hit by the same mistakes over and over again. So, I mean, that's essentially what I also mentioned. As Whaley's the best example of growth because she looks at the things that hit her, left high kick and the spinning back fist, asked why those things hit her, doesn't get hit by them again, then uses them against her opponents. But the current mindset for most fighters is my opponent has never faced my striking, my grappling is just too focused on their own skills and not looking at their mistakes. Again, if it's not broken, don't fix it. That's a very, very common mentality. As Sintra says, is that really a surprise for Ham? They disrespect her on the broadcast. They disrespect her on her decisions. They disrespect her on her matchups. Seems manipulative, as we like to say. Yeah, I will not disagree with that. As Jimmy says, is this manipulative, but about to backfire in the face of one? Totally. Because think about this. I mentioned it going into the Itsuki versus Lin Hae-Shin fight. And I mean, it happens a lot. I don't know if it's a Chinese fighters thing. I don't at all want to say that, but I have noticed. I mean, if you look at, for example, no, it's not. I'm going to completely retract that. Forget I even said that. But obviously, one championship has some of their favorites. They post some really ridiculous posts, nonsensical, like Instagram model-y type silly shit when it comes to like Itsuki and other fighters, obviously. But Itsuki, for example, and for her last fight, there was like no promotion from the promotion about Lin Hae-Shin being in that fight. It was like, Itsuki's back. She's fighting. Who's she fighting? Oh, she's fighting. So they love her. They're all on board with that. And, it's not that she's not good or anything, but like, let's fucking not do that. Let's balance this out. You have multiple great fighters. But the thing is here, I talked about risk versus reward. Reward is massive for her here. If Itsuki beats Ham, she's probably going to get a title shot. And how absolutely absurd is that? Not that that doesn't make sense, when you really think about it, but like, come on. Come on. Everything's mostly in favor of her right there. It's going to be tough, but yeah, I expect it to backfire for sure. As Jimmy says again, 87 and 13. Rain says, I would have loved to see Ham versus Park, striker versus striker dynamic at that, or Panchan versus Park in a mixed rules. Yes, that, yeah, I mean, a Park versus Panchan rematch would definitely be very interesting. And Ham versus Park, yeah, that would have been insane, especially former teammates. Siwoo worked with her a lot as she was getting into the sport, Team Mad in Korea. So there's that interesting familiarity there. I don't know, maybe, I'm sure they would fight each other, but yeah, there's that kind of element to it, which makes it fun. That would be a great fight. Great fight. As Ghost says, why it's hard to improve? Well, because in sparring, most fighters will revert to what they're good at when they get hit or get tired. Indeed, and they need to have the discipline to say no. I'm working on the mistakes, which is really hard to do. Indeed. Alvin says, Mr. Riggs, we should just wish both Miss Andrade and Miss Margaret Portman the best. Of course. And Crumbopoulos says, weren't we talking about that tournament with Jillian? Yes, we were. That was the Phoenix series, which this is not what it is. Crumbopoulos says, do the one-round exhibitions not go on the professional records? No, they don't, which I get it, but it is a little bit weird to me. Yeah. These ones, though, I probably should have read. I should read. I actually missed that detail entirely. Let me pull it back up real quick here because that is a pretty big detail. I don't think, since it's Colorado, I think they might allow them to do 3 and then 5, but I don't really know. Invicta FC. Oh, God. It's not coming up like I wanted it to. Had it. I just had it. Oh, here we are. Recently. Oh, there it is. All right. Sorry about that. Let's see what it says here. 4 athletes will compete for both semifinals and final. It's both the semifinals and final bout will consist of 3 5-minute rounds. Okay. All right. So the main event will still be 3 rounds. So that means 30 total or potential minutes of fighting for the winners, I guess you could say. Because, yeah, most athletic commissions in America will not let fighters compete for more than 25 minutes in a night. And that's why the Phoenix Series tournament had the 1-round fights. Because then it was 1-1-3, right? Spart is here. Says, when is the time that this show will be airing? Which show are you talking about, Spart? If you're talking about this show, then it is the same every week, 12 p.m. Pacific time on Tuesdays is the typical normal day. But unless you're talking about one of the events, then let me know. Specify for me. And Zhao says, yes, Dad, too. I am not a fan of Yan Jiaonan, but that is messed up to have to watch your daughter fight after traveling from Beijing. Yep, that sucks big time. The percent thing was an Anchorman reference. Okay, well, I like it. I love Anchorman for sure. And yeah, 65% of the time, 60% of the time, it works all the time, right? So I love that. Zhao says, and I would have loved to see Yadong, Wei Li, and Leach on the next Apex broadcast instead of Zuckerberg being creepy. Yeah, that's certainly fair. James says, for one, the Itsuki and Lin Hashin fight, people on the Instagram were saying robbery, and the one IG was responding by laughing at those comments. Are you serious? If that's true, James, then my God. Absolute hypocrisy of these guys. Rain says, oh, I meant Han versus Panchan. Oh, that would be fun too. Definitely a cool new thing. Let's see. Centro asks about TJ Dillashaw. Ghost says, good style. I was literally talking to Santino DeFranco about this 2 weeks ago. He says TJ has a lot of smoke and mirrors. What his style is just good, fundamental. Mirrors what his style is, just good, fundamental boxing. Yeah, well, there you go. We'll leave it to Ghost on that, as we got to get to the previews here before we wrap up for the day. And before we do, who was that was asking? So the Spart. Yes, if I answered your question or not, please let me know. But I did say UFC 280 is this weekend, obviously. A very fun card. But we also have one on Prime Video 3, which the return of John Lineker as he defends his belt for the first time against Fabricio de Andrade should be incredible. You can't miss John Lineker. He is just must-see action at this stage and always has been, really. But there is one fight kicking things off in the 115-pound atomweight division between newcomer Leah Bivens and Noelle Grandjean, who is 3-0, I believe. So a tougher fight for Bivens than her original debut that was supposed to go down a while back until her opponent missed weight and dropped out of the fight. All this stuff, craziness. So, excuse me. Hit with the yawn bug. Don't miss that fight. It will be the first one kicking off the show on Friday, right? Or Friday morning, Thursday night, depending on where you are in the world. On one on, oh, well, it's on Prime, so it should actually be midday Friday here where I am, around 5 o'clock Pacific time, PM. So yeah, that is the one fight, your little appetizer for the weekend, you could say. Okay, Sports says you want to know when the show goes live. Seems different every week. Yeah, I know. That's a problem I'm having. There's been things going on, as I said off the top, that have made me bump the show back. But typically, Spart, it's a Tuesday show every week, 12 p.m. Pacific time. That's the time. And then if it's not on Tuesday, it's going to be either Monday or Wednesday at the same time because of some issues. But it's a Tuesday show. If it's not on Tuesday, it's because something happened. So just always come here on Tuesday, and I will update things in the chat, which the message should be still pinned there at the top of if things are happening. So I'm sorry about that. The confusion. It's crazy times. So, yeah. So anyway, UFC 280 time. Let's get into it. Let's wrap up the show as I just stubbed my toe on my chair. That's a good feeling. Boy, oh boy. All right. So first fight we will get into is a fight that I forgot was happening, honestly. But Carol Hosa is back against Lena Landsberg. So I always love watching Carol Hosa. She is one of the ones to still keep an eye out for at bantamweight. A very talented rising contender, even though she got set back by Sarah McMahon her last time out. Came on very strong late. Knew she was down. You love to see that. So that was a good experience, I think, for Carol Hosa. Her first loss in the UFC after looking just excellent in her first 4 UFC fights there. Beating the brakes really off of everybody. Very, very well-rounded. Carol Hosa does, essentially everything well. I mean, she got exposed a little bit with the takedown or wrestling defense, but again, it was Sarah McMahon. That's going to happen. So you can't really knock her too much for that. And again, like I said, she came on so strong in the 3rd round, won that 3rd round, was looking for the finish, knew she was down. That's what you need to see in those moments. And you don't see it too often from fighters, maybe at bantamweight like this. So that was a very promising and good experience, I think, for Hosa to go through, and will look even better in this one, I think. And clearly the odds makers agree. Minus 250 favorite to the plus 200 Landsberg, who is 40 now. She is a mom. She has lost 2 in a row and also got beat by Sarah before her pregnancy, and then came back against Panny, which, Panny is, we're just at a stage here with Lena, who this is probably it for her. This is make or break. If she can, well, I mean, definitely if she can beat Carol, she's going to be sticking around, or at least show that she is able to, because who knows if she would retire after a win or something like that. We've been seeing that happen these days in some cases, but she just has not quite looked herself since, I mean, obviously the Macy win, which was a very big that was an upset at the time. That surprised, I remember, me and Steve when we were doing the show. Shout out to Steve. But yeah, this matchup, I think, is really tailor-made for Hosa to kind of impose her will. Like we've seen Landsberg do well in the grappling, like with that Chase-on one, she really exploited things there and took advantage of Macy's kind of maybe weakness there at the time, which she has improved on, certainly. But Hosa is just a big bantamweight, physically imposing, hits pretty hard, and can wear on you, so if she gets a hold of Lena, which I expect her to do, land some tight shots, and I mean, maybe we'll see a new aggression out of her because of that, a new kind of continued aggression from that 3rd round against McMahon. Like I'm saying, I feel like that loss could have been exactly what she needs to ignite an even scarier Carol Hosa, and against Lena Landsberg, this is the perfect rebound fight for her. No offense to Lena, but just when you kind of look at the elements of the trajectories of where they're going right now, obviously Lena hasn't been very active, whereas Carol was very, very active in the last couple stretch here, and she's taken a bit of time off, 6 months since that McMahon loss. Slight height advantage for Landsberg, just 2. And then in the reach, it is opposite there. So, yeah, in this one, I don't know. I struggle to see what Lena could do to really fend off Hosa. When you compare, when you just look at all of her performances and the McMahon one, that appears to be the best way so far to take care of Carol Hosa from what we've seen. Unless your name is Melissa Gatto in Practical Jokers, pre-UFC. But I cannot see Lena Landsberg out wrestling Carol Hosa. Definitely not like Sarah McMahon, but out wrestling her at all, which is what she should probably try to do if you're to go off of the last fight. So it's going to be an uphill climb, I think, for her, no matter where the fight goes. Maybe if she can make it like ugly and tight in the clinch against the cage, get some dirty boxing off, something like that. But I mean, just to imagine her, it's one of those fights where I feel like Lena needs to find a finish. Otherwise, she's not going to win. And how she's going to do that, I'm not sure. Whether she can pull off a submission from bottom, most likely would be the best way to do it to catch Carol. But she's just very, she has a very good fight IQ. And again, like I said, she can do everything pretty well. I don't know if I'd say Carol excels at one thing much more than the other. She's one of those very complete contenders, which obviously against specialists like Sarah McMahon can be an issue because then they can shut you down with that one thing being so good. So, yeah. And James says, did you know Kanako is at Bangtao? Is Bangtao becoming the premier gym in the world? Well, I don't know about that. ATT still has a whole lot of people, James, but I did see Kanako was there. Is she still there? I saw that she did stop by for sure, which is awesome. And I cannot wait for Kanako to come back. Where is she? Why are they not giving her a fight? That is what we need more of for sure. But Big Tao's obviously been fucking pretty awesome this year with everyone they're training and doing. So we love to see it. And Cintro says, is there such thing as mom strength? JHK was arguing that Lee would be stronger than Panda because she's a mom. Seems like the opposite. No. Disagree with that. That's just I mean, I think she's in the best shape of her life for sure. And you could say the same thing about Misha probably, and even Dern. Like, look at all the mom fighters are in phenomenal shape post-pregnancy. But in terms of them being stronger, I haven't seen any evidence of that whatsoever. I mean, Angela she had the least amount of success grappling in the fight compared to all their fights. And, of course, that's credit to Jingnan for defending well at the same time. But no, it's definitely a myth. I will disagree with JHK on that one. A fun idea to propose, though, that's for sure. As Jimmy says, this one is 95% for Drake and 5% for Ghost. What are the title implications if Chookagian gets a dub over Fiorot? Does Grasso get the shot, or will the UFC give Grasso her main event? Well, I'm glad you gave me that segue right there, Jimmy. Wonderfully done, as we are about to talk about the bantamweight fight. Excuse me, the flyweight fight with the title implications. Manon Fiorot versus Caitlin Chookagian, kicking off the main card of UFC 280. So here, I'm going to answer that in a second. Let me just look at the other comments real quick. Watching Practice Brothers Thursday at night Pacific time. There you go. Maybe we'll see Jillian at the supermarket where the Jokers are messing with. That would be pretty funny. Luke is back and he says, is it biased for me to say that I don't see anyone beating Whaley after watching your training alongside her? Yeah, I mean, obviously you have that inside info and there's nothing wrong with that. You have a more up close perspective than with any other fighter. So automatically by default, that's bias, but that's a fair opinion, right? Like there's nothing wrong with it, but factually speaking, yes, that is definitely a bias, an unintentional bias, right? Like if you were to go and watch the other fighters too and still feel that way, then that wouldn't be bias because you'd have every perspective. Now, Cintro says, why do people keep talking about mom strength? Being a mom is a distraction since they have to take care of the child. Well, now we're getting to a slippery slope territory. We won't really go down there. But yeah, the mom strength thing, I don't see that very much, thankfully. Ghost says, don't know, Jimmy. There's your 5% answer. That is a perfect 5% for 5% from Ghost. But anyway, since we are getting into it, where is it? Jimmy says, what are the title implications for Chookagian, though, if she gets the dub over Fiorot? Oh, and I think your second part here is, are you saying will Chukagian fight Grasso in the main event? So, okay, that's an interesting perspective. So, yeah, let's assume in this matchup here this weekend, Caitlin Chukagian pulls off the win, which is very possible. And man, you guys know I love Mana Fiorot. I've been on this train. I'm a little surprised by these odds. I think I would maybe flip these, honestly. Caitlin Chukagian should probably still be favored ever so slightly. Ever so slightly. And how that's kind of funny that Manon is from a place called Nice. How cute. That is adorable. Nice, France. That's just a great name for a city in general. I like that. But if Chukagian beats Fiorot, she is not getting a title shot. I think even if she has the most spectacular upside down backflip, spinning wheel kick, go-go plata, knockout submission, I don't think it matters for her to get a title shot, because he's also in. I mentioned Joseph Benavidez working his way back to Demetrius Johnson. She's pretty much in that same exact position now. Pretty much a top level gatekeeper trying and hoping, to get a title shot again. And to do that, they're going to have to knock off every single top contender imaginable before they're undeniable, like Benavidez did. And he didn't even need to for that one there. And he kind of did that twice in his career, didn't he? So crazy stuff with him. But you would have to think that Chukagian winning automatically gives it to Grasso. I don't think there's a need. You look at the timing, Valentina hasn't fought since June, right? There's no need to have, and we don't know what's going on with Santos. Probably not going to get the immediate rematch like she wants. Nope, there's no point for Grasso versus Chukagian. Just Grasso gets a title shot if Chukagian wins. If Fiorot wins, I think she will need to be more impressive, right? It will come down to then who had the more impressive victory. And you got to look at the eyeballs and the spotlight. Probably much more on this one because of the event for Fiorot. And the UFC is giving that to her by putting her on this one. But at the same time, Grasso did have a main event. Like, it's, I think it really comes down to the performance. What is more impressive in the UFC's eyes? Fiorot's type of victory versus the streak and all that. For there's cases for both. It's gonna be very interesting, Jimmy. It's gonna be very interesting. Very interesting. So in this fight, though, let's look at the lengths, as we like to do. 5'9". I mean, Caitlin's one of the tallest flyweights out there versus 5'7", just 2-inch, and then 2-inch in reach as well. So about as you would expect. Caitlin Chukagian, man, it's actually already been four wins since the Andrade loss. So that makes, I don't know, maybe if she does get some absolutely insane finish, like I mentioned. Now, I don't know. I still can't imagine her leapfrogging Grasso, but I didn't realize it was 4 already. My goodness. Whereas Fiorot is coming off that Jennifer Maia victory, biggest one of her career for sure. And, that's a great one to have. They're both very interesting matchups here, as styles, I should say, to make for an interesting matchup. Is Ghost highlight Southpaw versus Orthodox. I don't really want to talk about this because Fiorot is not exciting to me, and she's Drake's girl. All right. And Citro says, "Why is Chukagian boring?" So I know a lot of people feel that way, and I think it's fair to say, but I think honestly, it might sound weird, and you might not agree with it, but she fights very smart. She doesn't put herself in a lot of danger. So she kind of picks her shots very well. I mean, landed the hell out of her jab the last time out against Amanda Hebus. Looked great in that one. But of course, Hebus was kind of giving that to her. I don't think she's going to have that much success with Fiorot. And the more I'm thinking about it right here, you guys, with how both of these fighters fight typically, and we're focusing on Chukagian here at the moment. A lot of front kicks, circles a lot. Great movement from Caitlin. Puts the jab out there, like I said, in and out. A lot of in and out striking, but kind of one at a time for the most part. The 1-2, she'll definitely throw out plenty. But with Fiorot as well, you get kind of a similar thing. And so when they go against each other, I'm a little afraid this fight might not actually be that great because they'll both be looking to do a little bit of the same thing. I think we'll probably see more aggression, perhaps out of Fiorot, as Caitlin is typically very comfortable fighting off the back foot and, doing her work on a bicycle, if you will. That's kind of where she gets it out. Gets why she gets these labels of boring and whatnot. So it's I'm worried. I'm a little worried now the more I think about it that it could look like that. A sparring match, as some will say, but at the same time, the UFC knew what they were doing. They knew what they were doing. And, Fiorot obviously looked amazing against her best performance. As much as I have enjoyed watching her, and like I said, I'm on that hype train. Her best performances are against not the best competition. Tabitha Ricci, a strawweight, and then Leonardo, right? So Ghost says Chukagian likes to fight a distance like Valentina, and both are hard to watch for myself and other people like the heavy hand boys. But Valentina gets a whole lot of praise for doing almost nothing unless her opponent comes at her. That is very true. It's the much less. Yeah, good point, Ghost. Whereas Chukagian gets called out for it. Yes, much less wasted energy from Valentina. And I mean, I don't know if it's wasted necessarily for Caitlin either, because she at least keeps her opponents thinking or away or whatever. Whereas with Valentina, you're thinking and waiting like, oh my goodness, what is she gonna do when I do attack? So like the volume and activity levels there, they're very different, but very much distance oriented indeed. And as well, we've seen Caitlin throw in some more threats with her grappling and takedowns recently on this recent stretch too. So who knows if she'll try and take Fiorot down. That would probably be a good idea just to mix it up. It's always great to kind of throw in those wrinkles that can keep the opponent guessing, especially one like Fiorot, who is going to have more of a danger threat, if you will. I think she's proven that. Chukagian just is not a finisher. That's plain and simply put. So yeah. And Jin asks, who do I want to win here? Well, I don't need to answer that. I think if you guys know me, you have an idea. And I have nothing against. He says he needs my opinion so I can copy it. I enjoy both of them. I do. I really do. But you guys know me. I do love freshness in a division. And seeing new things happen, that's always something I prefer. And merit paying off, all that kind of thing. So with this fight, I think the big key will be for Fiorot to try and do her best to obviously stay comfortable with what she wants to do, but make Chukagian uncomfortable at the same time, because she's always so comfortable being mobile and fighting a distance, going off the back foot generally, right? Like she can lead the dance, but people come to her a lot. And so Fiorot can back her up, make her uncomfortable while still being comfortable to her own game. And maybe not risking any threats in the grappling. Who knows? We'll see. I'm very intrigued by it. I'm a little worried, like I said, that it might be could lead to a snoozer, but big opportunity for a Fiorot. So maybe there's some fuel there. And yeah. So James says, is it good for Manon to get a title shot if she wins? I mean, obviously that's good for anybody, right? I mean, the exposure, the pay, all the things that come with a title shot are amazing. That's what you want. The opportunity. Yes, it's undeniably good for her. But in terms of, I know what you're saying, maybe a little bit quick, depending on how she looks. I mean, she looked great against Jennifer Maia, who is a very worthy opponent, one of the best flyweights historically. And Chukagian has been around up there too. So we'll see. This will be a very telling fight, James. And Jimmy says, is it wrong to have Ghost opinion on Manon being boring? I would say so, but that's my opinion. So you can have whatever you want, as long as it's your own opinion. And maybe it's similar to someone else's. That's okay, Jimmy. But, oh boy, I'm about to sneeze. Whew. As Alvin says, what an incredible UFC card in one event. We should all wish everyone well. Indeed, yes, we do. As what is it? Sammy said, why is this card so stacked and very special? Well, it's because it is their first fight at Fight Island, all year, right? They haven't been to Abu Dhabi this year, so they really went big with it. I think that explains it. And it's the cards to close out the year are always pretty huge too. So that's just where we're at. The pay-per-views anyway. So all right, you guys. Well, we are over time. We are 5 minutes over. That is UFC 280. What a show we had today. A whole lot that we got into, like I said. But we'll be enjoying this one in the morning here stateside. And there's a lot to like. Lightweight main event. Charles Oliveira, Islam Makhachev finally going to do it. Dillashaw Sterling in the co-main. Jan O'Malley. Gamrot versus Dariush. My goodness, that's a great fight. Yeah, this card has a little bit of everything now, doesn't it? So, hope you guys enjoyed today's show. Hope you guys enjoy the fights this weekend. Appreciate you all so much for tuning in. Do not forget to like us, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell, all that stuff for everything MMA Mania on all platforms. I mean, the world. We're doing our best out here to give you all the goods. You can follow me at DrakeRiggs_ on Twitter and Instagram if you so please. Bringing you all the goods I can. And yeah, in terms of plugs, I obviously got the Jillian DeCourcy one out of the way for last week's episode. Go check that out. Also spoke to Aspen Ladd with the day after that. That is out. Justin Gaethje interview is out there, which I know I plugged that one already as well. And one I forgot to actually plug last week was my Shuri Kondo interview. I spoke to Shuri, the former Pancrase champion, strawweight champion, former UFC strawweight, you will remember. Obviously didn't have a great UFC run, but she is one of the best professional wrestlers in the world right now. So I kind of caught up with her, asked her a little bit about that stuff, how she reflects on her MMA career and all that good stuff. You can find that on MMAmania.com. It was kind of a fun, unique, different spin I wanted to look at with that combination of worlds. So that is one I wanted to highlight too. But yeah, I think that about does it, you guys. And always working on some other fun stuff. So, yeah. And Jin says, yeesh, must be hard being an analyst if you can't enjoy things. Yeah, that definitely helps to be able to like what you're watching. But all right, you guys, I think that is a great cap to it. I'll see you next week. Planning on Tuesdays is always the plan. Same time. Same place. Appreciate you so much. Stay safe and stay sane, my friends. Peace out.